Good afternoon, Excellencies, distinguished guests, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to session 13 of the Proud of UAE stage. Abuظbي, a global model for coexistence in the digital age. Today we gather at a particularly important moment in history. Our societies are more connected than ever before. Ideas travel very fast. Artificial intelligence is reshaping our world. Digital platforms influence how communities understand one another and how identities are formed, how narratives are shared across cultures and generations. Yet, while technology has transformed the way we connect, the fundamental challenge remains unchanged. How do we ensure that diversity becomes a source of strength rather than a division? Today's discussion explores how this model can continue to evolve in the digital era. Our conversation will focus on three interconnected areas and dimensions: digital tolerance, preserving cultural identity in a connected world, and the most important point is a social cohesion in the artificial intelligence age. Our goal is not simply to discuss technology in this roundtable, but we are more focused to discuss the way people communicate in the future and, of course, today. How we preserve empathy and how we strengthen trust among people, among organizations in this very fast technological age. We are privileged today to have an exceptional group of leaders, policy makers, academics, researchers, and practitioners joining us today. Thank you all for being here. To begin our session, it's my honor to introduce our featured speaker, Her Highness Mona Khalifa. I guess she hasn't arrived yet. So let's start our session. What makes this conversation valuable is a diversity of expertise represented on this stage. As I told you before, in this round table, we have government leaders, researchers, academics, human rights advocates, and interface practitioners. We have today in this round table Mr. Marcos Chef, the CEO of Impactsy, and Ms. Alina El-Bloushi. She is expert and interface leader and a human rights advocate. We have Dr. Maged Essara, Director in Government of Dubai, and Dr. Ibrahim El-Zaabi, the National Risk and Policy Director in UAE Government. We have Dr. Nir Boms, Research Fellow at Dayan Institute in Tel Aviv University. And we have Mr. Vishal Mishra, and he is a Chief AI Officer in IDCT Technology. We have Ms. Hoda Rafael, she is independent researcher. And we have Professor Shireen Farouk, Assistant Chancellor for Global Partnerships and Impact at Abuظbي University. Now we will go down and start our discussion with the groups. Our first question are directed to the attendees, the speakers of the round. So allow me now to go down in order to start talking to them about the three dimensions we have to discuss today. Thank you all for being here today. And we have different questions regarding the interconnection and the relationships in the AI technology age. Our first question to our guests: What are the strategies needed to preserve the cultural identity and shared societal values in a digitally connected world? And we can start with Dr. Rakan. I'll, of course, give 1 minute to each of our guests in order to share his insights and his contribution on this question. Dr. Rakan?
Sure. Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. The relationship between AI and culture. Of course, diversity always means different but equal. The more we are exposed to different cultures, the more we absorb, understand, and we can respect more. So definitely the technology and AI helps us to achieve that goal and to have the access to the values of other cultures and adopt the good things and give something back.
Thank you for this insightful point, because I totally agree with you. The use and leveraging technology in this age should be a kind of privilege in order to accelerate our communication together and not the other way around. Thank you for your insights. And let's move to Mr. Vishal.
I would say like a 4 to 5 year old child asks typically 200 to 300 questions to their parents. And this is the right time to have a right balance that he or any 4 to 5 or 4 to 10 year old child should ask those questions, because that create a bonding. Relying on AI, you don't need to give a perfect answer, but keep answering your question, leverage technology, but keep that 4 to 10 year child excited enough to ask more questions. Don't shut him up, go find on ChatGPT. So this is very important for families and bonding between them. And keep yourself encouraged and empty enough to answer those questions. That's what I would say, because I have a son, 11-year-old, and he asks so many questions. And I don't discourage him to go and find on ChatGPT. If we have to do ChatGPT, we'll do it together.
Thank you, Mr. Vishal. Actually, this is very insightful point, because at the end of the day, we couldn't fight back the wave, but flow with the wave. Yes, thank you. What about Professor Shireen? Do you have anything to add? What are the strategies needed to preserve the cultural identity and share societal values in this exponential technological world?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me thank the invitation from the Emirates Scholar Center. Thank you so much for the invitation, and to congratulate them on the successful event which we are attending. Raising this question is very important, as the technology can connect people, but the technology cannot create the coexistence. So it's the human being who are creating those coexistence and tolerance. So it's very important that when we use the technology, it should be human-centered. We should have our own strategies, like you mentioned, our own tools and mechanism in order to use this technology in the right way, in order to create a global citizens who are really value the coexistence and the tolerance between all the members of the same countries. So it's very important. The technology is a tool, but we are the one who is using this tool to create the coexistence and the tolerance.
Yeah, well said, Professor Shireen, because as you said, we need, when we are dealing with technology, it's a double-edged weapon. So we need to be very careful when we are dealing, especially with the people who are not mature enough, like our children, especially throughout their teens age or beyond. Thank you. Let's move to Dr. Nair. And what do you have to contribute? What kind of strategies are needed in order to foster our societal and humanital kind of connections in this world?
Thank you. I'll follow up Dr. Shireen, if I may. The issue of AI and generative AI, the related challenge is because of the abundance of information and the ease it gets. It's really how do we moderate content. And there are two strategies, one bottom up and one top bottom. On the top bottom, this is really education. It's a part of community, it's a part of family, it's a part of how do you work with your son to figure out that they would use it correctly. It's digital orientation. This needs to come from schools because that's part of the danger. The second part of it, the top bottom, and I'm sure there's going to be more questions about this, is how do you use regulation and collaboration to make sure that some of the content that is hateful, that is insightful, that is dangerous, is going to be moderated. And that requires some legislative tools and some efforts to bring hate back offline and not keep it online.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nair. Actually, you raised a very important point, which is how to harness technology or artificial intelligence in our favor in order to avoid the harmful effects. And this could only happen, as you just mentioned, by orientation. Orientation, right. Thank you. What about you, Doctor? We are talking again in order to remind you what kind of strategies we should equip ourselves with in order to navigate such kind of hyper-moving technological world.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dalia. I just want to add, it starts with the family itself. Now, if I go back in time in 2019, I believe His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai, he issued the traits of the Emirati social media user. And if you go through these traits, you have to be globalized. You cannot be biased. You have to accept all the ideas. You have to accept everybody. So it starts all the way from the main policy, the public policy of the government itself. And I believe some regulations would help me with this. You know, the digital platforms, it's like an ocean, it's like a space. So you can either dive, you know, peacefully and come back, or either you get lost. And if you get lost, that's a problem. How can we solve it? By these regulations which are in line with the main policy. If you go through these traits, I believe each community leader has to reflect all these traits, you know, on their members. Each family leader should educate the children, teenagers, you know, whether they're adults, they have to be educated about these traits. When you use these, you know, whether social media or any other digital platform, you have to have this knowledge and awareness. And I believe it only comes from the policy which is reflected in regulations, education, which is really important on how to use it. So it's not anymore the internet that we talk about in the 2006 or 2004. It is now more organized. It is now, I believe, each and every person is using digital platforms. I'm not going to say you have to get a license, but you have to have all these traits in order to know how to deal with each other.
Thank you for your insightful note, Doctor. Actually, from the remarks we can collect here that we all agree on one point, that we could not resist this high wave of AI that is overpowering the communities, but at least we could put a shield on ourselves, on our kids, in order to try to protect them from the harmful effects. But in this kind of accelerating world, do you think the parents themselves have a kind of a strategy in order to keep monitoring their kids day and night in order to save them from 100% of such kind of harmful? And we would like to hear from you, Doctor.
Listen, I think it is really crucial not to underestimate the importance of education. Parents, society clearly play an enormously important role in the development of children. But it starts in the school. It starts in the schoolroom, it starts in the curriculum, and here we are in the UAE at the very place where these values have been inculcated into the most remarkable school curriculum. So it was the UAE that instituted a curriculum of peace and tolerance based on respect for the other, respect for the individual other. Peacemaking is the way to resolve conflict, a curriculum which is constantly being improved, constantly being taken to a better and better place. You know, the UAE is the gold standard in curricula for peace and tolerance, but it is also becoming a gold standard in schools and AI. And so in the 2025-26 curriculum here in the UAE, children are being taught not just how to use AI, but how to think critically about AI. You know, really important. And so, you know, we're talking about not being scared of this technology. We're talking about not being overwhelmed by it. I think we should be talking about, in the schoolroom, teaching young people, as is being done here. I don't know other countries that are doing this, by the way, but as is being done here, how to use AI, how to be the master or mistress of AI and not the other way around. If we want the societies of the future that we all want to see, you know, I would put my money on the UAE developing this better and faster than any of the countries that we Impact SC are looking at the moment.
Thank you very much for this, because we couldn't put this load on the shoulders of parents only, because it's gonna be a big deal for them. So what you are suggesting is to get a partners from the society, like policymakers, like governments, in order to start embedding kind of courses or awareness kind of courses in the curriculum, in order to start as early as possible. So the family is working hand in hand with the schools, universities, in order to get our kids and our youth to the safest part when they are using with the hyper-technological AI or whatever we couldn't expect what will come in the future. Thank you very much. And this actually solved the point of how to work together as parents, families, organizations, institutions in order to put a strategy or put a kind of policy for how to embrace the good points of technology. And this takes us to another question. How can digital platforms contribute to strengthening the coexistence and the mutual understanding between communities? We would like to hear your insight on this.
First, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I'd like to start with that, and I'd like to start with thanking you all for having me today. So digital platforms are extremely important today, but I'd like to kind of redirect the question, if I may, and say, what kind of people are using these technologies? Most of the information that's available to us today has been there from where? Where did we get this information from? Humans, am I right? We're the ones that fed this. We are the ones that have, and our ancestors have worked so hard to provide us with biology, sociology, psychology, and history, and the studies of religion, and everything out there was initially because of someone like us that went and sought an education and tried to share it with others. Technology now, what it can do for us is give us access to this collective human knowledge on an unprecedented scale. We've never had something like this before. So digital platforms, I would say, yes, have an enormous potential to promote mutual understanding and coexistence. But I'd like to also say that access to information is not the same as wisdom, because it's a big risk today. We can easily become passive consumers of information, living on autopilot, accepting narratives sometimes without reflection if we're not careful, allowing algorithms to kind of shape narratives and to allow us to take in all of this misinformation that's available online, and to allow also popular opinion to shape our thinking, which is problematic because us as human beings are influenced by stories, by language, by narratives. So if we're not careful, it can actually deepen the divide. And so I want you to all remember that actually the human brain is programmable. It's very much programmable, right? And it can be influenced if we're not careful and manipulated. So I'd like to quickly share, please allow me to share it. It's a very interesting experiment done by Professor Lasana Harris and Professor Susan Fisk. They have done an experiment on the process of the brain when it comes to dealing with others, okay? And I'm bringing in the human rights perspective, if you allow me. So within this experiment, they've invited participants to go in an MRI machine, and they wanted to check out their brain activity. And what they wanted to do with that was to see what happens when they saw specific members of society, okay? And what happened was when they provided them pictures of a professor or a college student, then their part of their brain, specifically the prefrontal cortex, would light up with connection. What this indicates is that basically they are reacting to a picture as if they are, when they see this person, they recognize that it's a human being, it's someone with feelings, it's someone that is, that has a life, that is loved, whatever the story may be, right? That has a human experience. Someone that has compassion for the other person, basically. But then what was scary was that when they showed them pictures of homeless individuals or drug addicts, that part of the brain that's in charge of connection, compassion, and empathy did not light up. It did not light up. And this process doesn't just happen in the most horrific situations such as genocide and whatnot. It happens with regular people. They were normal, regular, everyday people. And so how does this manipulation start, you may ask? You say, okay, Lina, what does this have to do with the digital platforms? I would say the words that we hear constantly, the images that we see, the desensitization that we are exposed to consistently, the words that are used to refer to specific people can manipulate and harm our brains. And this can cause a lack of coexistence, actually. So coexistence, personally, it's not just about the technology. I don't believe it's just the technology. I do believe it's about the role of ethics and values and the training, that self-accountability that we have, actually. If we are not careful with the narratives that we are bombarded with consistently, then we can easily be manipulated, just like this experiment showed. So meaningful change and proper coexistence can actually only happen if we're aware of our own assumptions and if we take responsibility for our actions and recognize the dignity of others. Other than that, to be honest with you, I mean, it's a tool. It's a great tool. But if we don't know as humans how to use it, then for me, this is where the problem lies. I mean, I can go on and on, but I'd like to add one more thing from an interfaith. Most of the religions of the world have always promoted this idea of sharpening our moral character. In Islam, we call it tazkiyat an-nafs. In Christianity, moral formation. In Judaism, tikkun hamidot. I hope I pronounced that right. So AI does not decide on its own to create harmful content, actually, or to spread misinformation, or to exploit children, or generate deepfakes. AI doesn't do that on its own. Humans do. So we should look at ourselves. We shouldn't just focus on AI. So I will end with this note. Technology can amplify both the best and the worst of humanity. So thank you very much for giving me the time. Thank you so much.
Actually, I am speechless. Why, Doctor? Because you take us to a kind of a very nice and emotional journey to psychology, which I personally adore. Because when you are talking about psychology, you dig deep and dive into the human nature. And the kind of experience that you just mentioned, people, especially the cortex, how it reacts to what you can see and what you feed your brain with, you should take care, and you should take into consideration your mind and your spirit as important as your gut, because whenever we are searching and running after eating healthy, we need also to watch out what we feed our spirit, our soul, and our mind on a daily basis. How we react to a bad kind of figure, to a homeless, everything doesn't work in our cortex, and how we light up just we saw something good. But I need to add something, Doctor. If we exaggerate in taking too much fancy lifestyle we saw in the social media, it could be has the same effect if we expose ourselves to such kind of very bad photos, because it reminds me of what Aristotle once said. Aristotle said that moderation is the core of virtue, and extremes is representative of all vice. So be moderate. And you mentioned also a very important point is I shouldn't keep obsessed with what is the latest AI, or keep talking about AI. I should start with myself, because if I work on myself to be normal human being, I can filter. I can turn on a filter in my mind in order to filter what is suitable for me, what is not. Am I right?
Yes, I just want to say that, yes, this is a duty on all of us actually, because we all have a brain, right? All of us do. And so because we have it, this is the process that has to happen on a daily basis. I need to be careful what I received from the media unconsciously, or from our environment, or just from a movie that we receive. I mean, a great example of that is Islamophobia, for example, that happens around the world. Why are people scared of Muslims sometimes? What did they watch? What are the movies that they were exposed to? What is the narrative that is consistent in every single movie? It's scary. We can easily be programmed if we're not aware. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Before I move to Doctor, in order to have insight on this point, I will also add that there is a kind of experience that has been applied in Harvard University. And this experience took about 55 people and make a kind of scan on their brain based on the last kind of movie or program they watched before they go into sleep. And if they see or watch something light, they wake up refreshed and with full energy. If they watch a kind of horror movie or some bad news, it affects their mood, their energy, and it aligns very much with the experience you just mentioned. And let's hear your insights, Doctor, about the same topic. How can digital platforms contribute to strengthening the coexistence among community sectors?
أنا السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
معكم المحامي أحمد إبراهيم، عضو مجلس إدارة جمعية الإمارات لحقوق الإنسان. نهتم بالإنسان وحقوقه وكرامة الإنسان. اسمحي لي بس أنا بطرح السؤال بالعربي عشان الجماعة يفهمون السؤال ويفهمون ردي على السؤال. طبعا سؤال أعتقد كان يكون كيف يمكن للمنصات الرقمية والتقنيات الحديثة أن تسهم في تعزيز التعايش والتفاهم والتواصل المسؤول بين المجتمعات. المنصات الرقمية اليوم ليست مجرد وسيلة تواصل، بل باتت فضاء يشكل القيم ويعيد توزيع التأثير. فنحن يعني هذا واقع حقيقي عايشين وملموس. السؤال ليس ما إذا كانت هذه المنصات قادرة على تعزيز التعايش، بل الشروط التي تجعل ذلك ممكن. شو الشروط اللي ممكن تخلي هذا التطور التقني يتعايش معنا ويأثر فينا في المجتمع؟ من منظورنا نحن كجمعية الإمارات لحقوق الإنسان يتطلب ذلك 3 مستويات متكاملة. أولا تبني سياسات المحتوى على معايير حقوق الإنسان الدولية المنصوص عليها في الإعلان العالمي لحقوق الإنسان والعهدين الأولي والثاني وكافة الاتفاقيات المتعلقة بالمرأة والطفل وكبار السن وأصحاب الهمم، والتي تدعو بالنهاية كلها تدعي إلى الكرامة الإنسانية ونبذ الكراهية، وتدعو إلى التسامح والتعايش السلمي بين المجتمعات جميعا بغض النظر عن الدين طبعا وعن الجنس واللغة. أهم شيء الناس تكون عايشة التسامح، لا على منطق الربح والانتشار. اليوم المنصات نشوف بعض المنصات تستغل الأطفال في الانتشار وتستغل النساء للأسف في الربح. فهذه يعني هذه نحن نتطلب أن هذه تكون في رقابة على هذه المنصات، وأن تكون المعايير كلها ملتزمة بالمعايير اللي تنص عليها حقوق الإنسان الدولية. هاي النقطة الأولى. النقطة الثانية أن نوظف الذكاء الاصطناعي والخوارزميات في الكشف المبكر عن خطاب الكراهية. اليوم الرقابة التقليدية تأخذ وقت، لازم تستوي مصيبة تحصل كارثة لغاية ما تنكشف أن هذا التطبيق سيء. الخوارزميات اليوم أصبحت سريعة وشغالة 24 ساعة، فلو الخوارزميات تغذى باستبعاد كل ما هو يدعو إلى الكراهية والنبذ وإساءة استعمال الأطفال أو النساء وذوي الحمم، نحن نكون أدينا مرحلة كبيرة. هاي النقطة الثانية. والنقطة الثالثة أن تتاح للمجتمعات المتنوعة بما فيها نحن المجتمعات اللي هو منظمات المجتمع المدني، أن يكون لها روايتها الخاصة، ما تكون فقط متلقية مستمعة، لا تكون هي نفسها تعمل الرواية وتعمل السلوك اللي تبغيه وتنشره في الفضاء الإلكتروني بما يتوافق مع المجتمع والقيم الموجودة عندنا في البلد. وأبوظبي أكبر مثال على ذلك. أبوظبي نجحت في هذا الموضوع وقاومت بين الفضاء المادي والفضاء بين الفضاء المادي والفضاء الرقمي. اليوم الفضاء المادي كنا نعرف حاسين الأشياء نحسها شارع طريق مبنى اليوم جالسين، أما الفضاء بعدين محدودين في منطقة في أبوظبي أو في الإمارات. أما الفضاء الرقمي مشكلته أنه عابر للحدود ومعنوي. واليوم المشكلة كلها في إيش؟ في الفكرة. الفكرة المشكلة اليوم استعمال الذكاء الاصطناعي مثل ما قالت الدكتورة. نحن اللي نستعمله، نحن يجب اليوم نزرع في أطفالنا من البداية من البيت الاستعمال الجيد للذكاء الاصطناعي بما يفيدك أو الصحي، بحيث أني أنا ما أخذ الأشياء السلبية. أوكي، ما يمنعني أنا أسمع وأشوف الأشياء السلبية عشان ما أكون جاهل بكرة، خاصة في موضوع الديب فيك اللي هو تبع التزوير العميق الموجود حاليا ومنتشر سواء بالفيديو أو بالصور أو حتى بالصوت. وما نمنعهم، بالعكس أنت طور مهاراته في كيفية استعمال الذكاء الاصطناعي لمصلحته. واليوم أيضا من ضمن الأشياء اللي كانت تنادي فيها الأمم المتحدة، لأن اليوم نحن عايشين الحمد لله في نعمة، دولة متطورة من نحن صح الإمارات دولة صغيرة جغرافيا، لكن من الدول المتقدمة في الذكاء الاصطناعي. في دول كبيرة ومساحات شائعة في أفريقيا الذكاء الاصطناعي ما عندهم الخدمات الإلكترونية، مش ذكاء اصطناعي. فهاي من الأشياء اللي تنادي فيها الأمم المتحدة أن يكون هناك عدالة أيضا وتوزيع هذه الأنظمة الذكية على كافة البشر، مش فقط يكون محصورة لدى الأغنياء، لأن هاي الذكاء الاصطناعي مكلف. فنحن الحمد لله عايشين في نعمة، وأبوظبي خير مثال على ذلك، على كثر الجنسيات اللي عندنا وعلى كثر نقول تنوع الحضاري والثقافي والديانات. عايشين كنا في سلم وسلام، وجزاك الله خير.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. Actually, no one can deny that UAE has succeeded very much in building a very strong and solid infrastructure for coexisting of more than 200 nationalities, of course. And back to the point that very interesting, you talked about the algorithms of the haters. Actually, I totally agree with what you just mentioned, because AI and social media is deeply affecting not only children, but all of us. When I keep scrolling and I see messages of hatred and algorithms, it affects not only me, but everyone all over the world. So the source is a human being, as Dr. just mentioned. If we fix our mentality, our spirit, in order to be normal people, we can coexist in this kind and leverage, or instead of using technology in order to just spread algorithms of hatred across all platforms, we can harness, if the word is correct, we can harness it in our favors and kind of values, cherished values of coexistence among all nationalities. Thank you for your insights. It's very good. And let's move regarding this point of the relationship between coexistence among several sectors in one community, and how we can use AI in its favor in a positive way, not in a negative way. And the question to you, Doctor.
So, I think AI is, again, is a sword with double edges. So, it gives us access to a lot of information. Like I'm doing a research about a historical subject, and it's amazing because I could really go and look up sources and I could find a lot of information. But also in the meantime, I find a lot of information that come from Facebook, that come from Instagram, that come from Twitter, that I cannot verify the sources for it. So in a way, it's a great access, and I think, for a student it's a great access, but again, I think there need to be some kind of a regulation to actually maybe even divide it or into where the source is coming from. Is it a legitimate source or it's not? I think AI is great, again, about teaching us about, diverse communities, especially in places, remote places where they don't have diversities. AI also is great in documenting really histories, of course, the right sources of it. In, where, here, for example, in the UAE, I think it's amazing, if you want to look up histories of different communities that are here, it's using AI to document it, that it become a source of, legitimate information or, in the region. But again, there need to be some kind of a regulation to do that. But I really believe it's a great tool. If it's done with regulation, I come, again, from research in the pharmaceutical industry, and we don't really put a drug out there on the market without being studied, without having the regulation to study it. So I don't know how we can put information that could brainwash our children in a positive way or a negative way without really doing the research and having regulations on it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your insightful remark, and actually it aligns 100% with what just the doctor mentioned, because no one can deny that AI changed the face of humanity. But you mentioned a very important point. It should be functioned under regulation. The word regulation is the key. As you just mentioned, we should have partners from the government, the policy makers, in order to put policy regulation, in order to make sure that the whole community is aligned on the right track. Thank you, Doctor. And my question to you, Dr. Nair, if AI is accessible for everybody everywhere in the world, so you couldn't filter what the people in your house are facing or reading or exposed to, how we could maintain and keep our identity, our values, our principles against all such kind of changes and against all such information we are receiving every day?
Just to add a piece of data, in one of the studies that I read preparing for this, in the United States, children in the age of 13 to 17 use their phones about 4 hours, close to 5 hours a day. Now, if you think about a day, and let's make this day long, let's make it a 16-day, right? Only allow 8 hours to sleep. Half of that's supposed to be in school. They're using this in school as well, and half of that is already here. Of course, I very much agree with my colleague, Dr. Fatima. The AI is not an issue by itself. It's the algorithm and the prompt that writes it. So we need to sort of understand that it's there. How do you tackle this? It comes back to, I think, the two broad strategies. Part of it is bottom up. Is how do you construct education that begins with the family, community, in school, to make sure that young people and generally are able to understand some of the issues, some of the dangers, but also how to read. As educators, as professors, we are teaching our students how to process information. There is an abundance of knowledge. Sometimes we teach knowledge, but often what we need to do is how to look at knowledge, how to understand perspectives, how to understand prisms. And that still remains the case when it comes to AI. But part of that, how to do this digitally. I think there is no option but to also consider the other piece of it, which is more difficult because it's not always positive. But we need to fight the damaging narratives. And I will say something last as a historian. Hate is not new. AI did not invent hate. If anything that is done by a narrative is rather propagation of hate. In 1951, There is an interesting book called The True Believer by Eric Hoffer that looks about how mass movements were created. At that point, the perspective was communism and Nazism in Germany. And he was looking at the unifying factor. And one of the sentences that I remember, speaking about hate is the most efficient of all unifying factors. In order to create a mass movement, you do not need a God, but it's essential to have a devil. Hate travels faster. Conspiracy travels faster. The danger of AI and generative AI, it enables to use a $30 subscription that enables a malign actor to disseminate false information, insightful information, in a pace unparalleled to any time before. And therefore, it's important to constantly think, on the one hand, how do we address this as educators, as parents, in schools, in our community, and also how do we work together collaboratively to mitigate and to enforce. If we see a narrative of hate, how do we fight it? It's much easier to disseminate a narrative of hate, unfortunately, than to disseminate a narrative of love. And it's much easier to push a negative message than to push a positive message. That's always been the old media thing that when dog bites a man, that doesn't make the news, but a man bite dog, then it may make the news. And we need to fight in a way the same wars, but trying to figure out how to use prompts in a more positive way. And I think we have a much more serious challenge on education in a world that is growing in a more polarized way.
Thank you, Dr. Nair, for your insights.
Yes. May I add one point, if you allow me, just to continue of what you mentioned, that studies showed that 70% of the youth and the young people are getting all their information from the platforms. So you see how this is very crucial and important. And I think what you mentioned is very important in order to raise awareness. I think raising awareness is something very important, and raising awareness should be not only from the schools, stage and the universities, but also the media are playing, media is playing a very crucial role in order to raise awareness. Conferences like we are attending right now, workshops, seminars, all of these occasions are very crucial and important in order to raise awareness of how to use the AI, how to use it in a way that enhance culture understanding, that enhance coexistence and tolerance among the communities. So we can come up with a whole ecosystem that support this. So creating this ecosystem is very important in order to have the right direction of using the AI. And I think the UAE is a very successful example when we talk about this. We have a ministry of AI, and also we have a ministry of coexistence and tolerance. So this balance, you cannot find it anywhere rather than in the UAE. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shireen, for your insights and very amazing kind of point. And thank you also, Dr. Nair, because what you just mentioned enforces one point that separate and individual kind of attempts in order to mitigate the harmful effects of AI wouldn't work much. We need to have it under regulation by policymakers or being monitored by certain authorities as a Ministry of AI here in UAE, and fortunately it will be a role model for all other countries very soon. And let's move to Doctor. We need to know from based on your experience, can you talk about a certain kind of initiatives of using AI in order to enforce the good points or the positive points of how people could coexist in peaceful in one country like UAE?
مساء الخير. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Guten Tag. And I can keep greeting everyone here by their language using AI or the translator, the technology. Even not only this, the greeting. I can do more, like understand what they're interested in, what type of food, what type of area they are interested in. All this with the technology, with the help of the technology. Also, I can give you example of considering, since the theme of this event is about tolerance, the real understanding for tolerance will not be enough in just in an event. You can figure out if you can you want to understand the tolerance when you see the WhatsApp group and family. This is the easy things. If you think of 11 p.m. in weekend and you send a message to the group, or you can receive or maneuver through the news without basis that your uncle sending it or your cousin sending continuous or endless cat stickers, or you can accept your mother correcting your grammar every time you talk without leaving that group, of course. That's what I feel the technology will teach you the real tolerance. And by that you can understand, you will not be able to understand the tolerance of the people, but you can practice it as global diplomacy. That's where we see the technology. To the point what you say, I heard from my colleagues there are many insightful things when it comes to implementing AI and how to identify the parameters. I know in the beginning you mentioned not to go technical. I will try to stop me if I go deeper on how to design that. But I'm trying to make it easy how we can identify the negative speech by the AI, how early detection, and how we can use the AI to escalating these kind of things, or the parameters of people who's using social media. If some like based on the content who is providing, I can address or profile this user as negative in a way, right? So AI will help me to sort creating that profile to that user and try to monitor him and detect the parameters where he will be negatively impacting the society. So why I'm trying to point these things, also in terms of language, I started by greeting different language using it. AI will help you not only to translate, it will help you understand the way how that word will be. Different culture have different perspective in perceiving these comments. So AI will help you to identify it and smooth the relation when you talk to new people, when you talk to kind of partners and that. As a policy maker, these kind of things, or AI assessors and that, it's helping us how we can look to the policy from that perspective, how that could affect the UAE, how that it affect the presence of UAE internationally. So these kind of inputs will help us to escalate. It will help us to ease our thought and gather it in one bucket in order to come up with the next, let's say, policy or guidelines and so. So here, from the AI, we can conclude, or let's say summarize the inputs from different perspectives, because when it comes to AI, it's not a thought of one person, it's thought of thousands of persons sitting around the world who's putting their inputs there and try to see the result of that inputs. So with taking these results and gathering these inputs will give us good indication to draft our policy.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Actually, what you are saying in a nutshell, that UAE is walking the talk, which means you are using and leveraging AI in order to combat and mitigate the harmful effects of AI itself. So you use AI in order to pre-detect the harmful effects of AI and prevent it from its start or before it's starting. Thank you very much for this point. And before we end, I'll just let each participant to complete this sentence with whatever. You can add one word or a simple phrase. The one thing I believe can change the direction of digital civilizational dialogue is, let's start with Dr. Ahmed.
Collaboration.
Thank you.
It's more than a word, it is a sentence. We're wary, we're scared of AI, we are not Luddites, we're not going to throw spanners at AI and hope it's going to stop. Let's harness it, let's use it to create curricula.
Okay.
Around the world, tens of millions of children not studying school curricula. Imagine what AI could do.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Dr. Fatma? The one thing I believe can change the direction of digital civilizational dialogue is?
Sorry, before that, my name is Lina Al-Blushi.
Yeah, I'm
sorry, guys. I know my face is mentioned twice, but I'm Lina Al-Blushi, okay?
Okay.
But I will just say values-based education. I truly believe in that.
Thank you. Mr. Ahmed?
أنا أتفق معاها.
One word, please.
تدريب الجيل على ثقافة رقمية.
Thank you. Mr. Vishal?
Responsible AI is the one thing I can think of right now.
Thank you. Dr. Rakan?
Inclusion.
Thank you.
Verification and authentication of data.
Thank you. Professor?
Awareness and education.
Thank you very much. Doctor?
So actually, I mean, authentication, with that come regulation. So to, authentikize, then have a regulation and have some kind of entity doing that.
Thank you. Dr. Nir?
Tolerance-based algorithm.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Excuse me, our esteemed guest, thank you for being here and for taking the time in order to wait all this and discussion for the round table. And now we have Her Excellency Mona Al-Hamad. She is a featured speech and she is going to give us such a kind of informative speech. Please be seated and Your Highness, you may start.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أولاً أنا أحب أشكر الجميع على هذا المؤتمر، على هذه الأيام الحلوة حقيقة اللي نعيش فيها في التعايش وفي التسامح. نحن مش بعاد عن رؤية قيادتنا الحكيمة، رؤية دولتنا اتجاه هذا الجانب، دولة يعيش فيها أكثر عن 200 جنسية، واللي نحن اليوم فخورين فيها بهذه عملية. يعني خلنا نقول نحن دائما عنها نتكلم عن التعددية الإيجابية فيها دولتنا. واسمحوا لي الجميع أنا بتكلم باللغة العربية لإيمانا مني بلغتي العربية فيها، وأؤمن أيضا أن لغتنا ومفرداتنا تحمل المعنى الأكثر والكبير تجاه ما سنقوله ونعبر عنه. فبداية أصحاب السعادة الحضور الكريم، يسعدني أن أشارككم اليوم في هذه الجلسة الحوارية التي تناقش موضوعا بالغ الأهمية، وهو التعايش في العصر الرقمي. ذلك العصر الذي لم تعد فيه المجتمعات تقاس فقط بقدرتها على استخدام التكنولوجيا، بل بقدرتها على توظيفها في خدمة الإنسان وحماية القيم وتعزيز جسور التواصل بين الثقافات. إن دولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة تقدم اليوم نموذجا عالميا متقدما في هذا المجال، فهي دولة جمعت بين الأصالة والانفتاح، وبين الهوية الوطنية والتنوع الإنساني، وبين التحول الرقمي والقيم الأخلاقية، وفي مجتمع يعيش فيه أكثر من 200 جنسية. أصبحت الإمارات نموذجاً عملياً للتعايش اليومي، لا كشعار بل كثقافة حياة. وممارسة مؤسسية وتشريعية ومجتمعية. إن التعايش في دولة الإمارات لم يبدأ مع العصر الرقمي، بل هو امتداد طبيعي لرؤية الآباء المؤسسين، وعلى رأسهم المغفور له الشيخ زايد بن سلطان آل نهيان طيب الله ثراه، الذي آمن بأن قوة الوطن لا تبنى فقط بالاقتصاد والعمران، بل تبنى أيضا بالإنسان وباحترام كرامته وبالانفتاح على الآخر. ومن هذا تحولت قيم التسامح والتعايش في الإمارات إلى منظومة متكاملة تشمل التشريعات والتعليم والعمل الحكومي والبرامج المجتمعية والحوار بين الأديان والثقافات. وقد عززت الدولة هذا التوجه من خلال استحداث منصب وزير للتسامح والتعايش، وإطلاق البرنامج الوطني للتسامح، وإقرار قانون مكافحة التمييز والكراهية. وهذا يعني أن الإمارات لا تترك التعايش للصدفة ولا للعلاقات الاجتماعية فقط، بل جعلته جزءا من بنية الدولة الحديثة. إخواني أخواتي، أحب أقولكم أنا في هذا اللقاء أبغي حقيقة أكلمكم عن نقطة وايد مهمة جدا، وهي أن دولة الإمارات خلقت لنا نماذج وملامح معينة في التعايش في العصر هذا، العصر الرقمي. راح أكلمكم عن الإنسان الأول، أو الإنسان أولا كأول ملمح في هذا الجانب. نحن جميعنا نستخدم الجانب الرقمي، نستخدم الأمور الكثيرة، ولكن كيف ممكن أن نوظفها حقيقة في هذا الجانب، ونوظفها ونستخدمها في مجال التسامح ومجال أيضا العمل. جميعنا لدينا أبناء أو لدينا أخوان أو لدينا أخوات، لنا أسر. كيف الأسرة اليوم تبث جانب مهم جدا؟ الكتابة البسيطة في تعليق ممكن يكون منشور موجود عندنا، راح يؤثر تأثير كبير على التسامح وعلى الثقافات وعلى الحوار. توظيفنا لمثل هذه العناصر مهمة جدا. إحنا كناس موجودين على ظل دولة الإمارات وعلى ظل هذه المنطقة والأرض والتشريعات والبنية التحتية الكبيرة، كيف ممكن أنا أخلق جيل اليوم راح يساعدني على بث حياة تملأها تبادل الثقافات وتنوعها وعملية التسامح والثقافة ما بيننا، سواء كنا في بيئة عمل أو بيئة أسرية أو بيئة حتى مؤسسية أو في مجتمع عام في حياتنا وممارساتنا. في طبعا التحول الرقمي هو متاح، ولكن كيف أنا ممكن أستخدمه لفئات لها حالات خاصة مثل كبار السن؟ كيف ممكن أنا للأشخاص ذوي الإعاقة؟ كيف ممكن أستخدمه لناس عندهم بعض الأعمال أيضا ولهم خصوصية معينة؟ أصبحت لدينا اليوم هذه القنوات مهم جدا إحنا نوظف فيها قيمنا، نوظف فيها رغبتنا وما نبحث عنه حقيقة فيه. في جانب اللي خاص بالقيم في الأمور الخاصة بالثقافة. في حد بيقول طيب كيف يعني القيم؟ أنا اليوم لما أتكلم عن دولتي وأتكلم كشخص كمنى في هذا المجتمع، لازم أحافظ فيه على قيمنا الوطنية، تراثنا، هويتنا، في منطوقنا وكلامنا اللي نعبر فيه عن علاقاتنا، عن أهدافنا، عن ما هي اليوم عندنا نحن الدولة مبنية فيها على جوانب. هذه الجوانب هي مهمة جدا أني أنا وأنت وأبنائنا وعيالنا وأصدقائنا. وعلى فكرة أنا دائما أحب الناس اللي يونا الزائرين لدولة الإمارات. الزائر اللي يينا يانا اليوم لكن إحنا نحبه دائما معانا، فلذلك نلاقي الناس المقيمين معانا أصبحوا اليوم شركاء معانا، شركاء معانا في نجاحاتنا، شركاء معانا في حتى شعورهم معانا. الفترة اللي طافت اللي إحنا عشناها فيها بعض الظروف، المرحلة اللي مرينا فيها، وجدنا كيف شقدهم في فئة معينة موجودة تعبر حقيقة عن ثقافة بلادها في بلادنا. الله يحفظك. فلذلك نحن دائما نشعر بوجود المحيط اللي حوالينا محيط جدا جميل عبرالنا عن هذا التعايش وهذا التسامح. خلوني أقول لكم بعض الأمور اللي أثلجت صدر اللي موجودين في الدولة واللي خارج الدولة. جميعنا شفنا في وسائل الإعلام أخواني وخواتي شيوخنا نزلوا إلى الميدان. شيخنا يطلع رئيس الدولة الله يحفظه ويطول في عمره الشيخ محمد بن زايد يقولنا لا تشلون هم، أمن الجميع موجودين، ويرسل لنا جميعا رسائل يهنينا فيها بالعيد، ويقول لنا لكل مواطن ولكل من اعتبر الإمارات وطنه. هذه هي عناصر التسامح اللي تم تمثيلها فعلا على أرض الواقع. لما نحن نكون جالسين وماسكين عيالنا وماسكين أهالينا ونخاف عليهم لا تسيرون لا تطلعون من الخوف، ولا زال أشياء تخيم علينا، ونلاقي عقب فترة في السوشيال ميديا إن شيخنا في قمة الأماكن اللي فيها حركة في المولات. تتمنون لو كنتم موجودين هاك اليوم هناك صرتوا تشترون أغراض. وكان الكل يبتهج ويقول يا أنا كنت ناوي أسير بس كنت متردد. اليوم لين إحنا الأول أمس كان الشيخ الله يطول عمره الشيخ محمد بن راشد نائب رئيس الدولة كان في أحد المولات، أعتقد يمكن الضحى سار، قلت يا ربي كنت بسير لكني ما سرت. نحب نشوفهم لأن يعطونا الطاقة القوية الكبيرة اتجاه العمل واتجاه أن نحن تعالوا الحياة مستمرة. نحن مجتمع متكامل، مجتمع فيه المواطنين فيه المقيمين وهم اليوم شركائنا، وفيه أيضا اللي قلت لكم عنهم الزائرين، ولهم منا كل التحايا لوجودهم وحضورهم وتمثيلهم معانا مجتمع دولة الإمارات. الزائر جزء منا والمقيم جزء وعضيد معانا، والمقيمين يرحبون بالجميع ودولتنا وحكامها يثنون بالجميع، وكلهم شركاء معانا في نجاح وفي تسامح وتنوع الثقافات اللي بيننا وبينكم. أحب أقول لكم نقطة بسيطة جدا حقيقة، يعني يمكن أحب أختم فيها حديثي معاكم. طبعا انطلاقا من قول صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد آل نهيان رئيس الدولة حفظه الله ورعاه، قالنا رئيس الدولة إن التسامح والتعايش وقبول الآخر أساس الاستقرار والتقدم والازدهار في المجتمعات. هذا حقيقة منهاج، هذا الكلام منهاج يدرس في كتب التسامح. الازدهار لا يقوم على مبدأ فرد وثقافة وحدة، كل ما تتعدد عنا الثقافات وتتنوع تعطينا تجذير قوي للعمل وللتكامل. اليوم عنا أبنائنا، عنا أجيال صاعدة، عنا مجتمعات تتنافس، عنا مؤشرات رئيسية لدولة الإمارات. إحنا اليوم ما جالسين نشتغل على أساس فرد وفردين وثلاثة، إنما على تكوينة مجتمع كامل يطمح إلى الاستدامة والاستقرار. حقيقة أنا أقول لكم تؤكد دولة الإمارات أن التعايش في العصر الرقمي ليس خياراً فكرياً فحسب، إنما ركيزة وطنية وإنسانية لصناعة مستقبل أكثر أمناً، وأيضاً انفتاحاً وتواصلاً بين الشعوب. أنا اليوم أشكر الجميع وأشكر القائمين في هذا المؤتمر، وأشكر كل من اليوم حضر فعلاً، لأن هذا يثني ويثبت للجميع أن التسامح والتعايش وتبادل الثقافات ما بيننا أساس استقرار وثقافة مجتمع دولة الإمارات. قيادتنا تؤمر، قيادتنا ترسم وتراقب وتحدد مسار، ونحن نقولهم نحن معاكم وتحت أمركم، وقيادتنا فوق راسنا، والجميع أيضا عضداء معانا لتحقيق رؤية الإمارات. شكرا لكم.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your beautiful and inspiring speech. And I would like to extend our sincere thanks to our distinguished guests. Sure. And thank you all our audience. And I'll give a word now to Mr. Ahmed.
أشكر الأخت منى أنها تطرقت لموضوع التشريعات. دولتنا متطورة في التشريعات كما تطورت في الذكاء الاصطناعي. اليوم أبغى ننبه أن عندنا قانونين مهمين، قانون حماية البيانات الشخصية، وقانون السلامة الرقمية للطفل. يعني لهالدرجة الدولة يعني كان عندها فيجن أو رؤية مستقبلية مع التطور. يعني هاي القوانين ما تحصل معظم الدول، فالحمد لله موجودة عندنا، وتأكد أن دولتنا سايرة في منطلقة للأمام تشريعيا وثقافيا وتقنيا. وجزاك الله خير دكتورة على الطرح الطيب.
الله يحفظ. أنا بكمل شوية على تعليق أخوي. خلوني أقول لكم حكومة دولة الإمارات تعمل بمبادئ كبيرة جدا وفيها استشراف للمستقبل. استشراف المستقبل ليس اليوم تكلمت فيه الحكومة، إنما ترتكز الحكومة بجانب كبير جدا على التشريعات، وهي البنية التحتية للأعمال التي تلينا بعد. ركائز كبيرة موجودة عندنا في مجتمع دولة الإمارات، وهي تؤدي إلى عملية التسارع فيها، عملية الدعم فيها، وهو التنوع الاقتصادي والابتكار والتنمية البشرية. اليوم كل هذه العناصر التي تدفع العمل فيها للاستباقية التشريعية واستباقية العمل هي مبنية على أمور كثيرة. مثل ما تفضلت أخوي، التشريعات تعتبر من البنية التحتية، لولا وجودها لما وجدت هذه الركائز. والحمد لله نحن عندنا في دولة الإمارات النظرة المستقبلية ودراسة المخاطر، إدارتها واستمرارية أعمالها هي التي دائما تنظر لها في أحد محاور العمل في تصميم مشاريعها وإدارتها، وصولا بها إلى مؤشرات اللي هي تباها. وشكرا لكم.
We finished the roundtable discussion, and thank you all for this kind of. So now we will invite all our dearest guests in order to take photo. Okay, and thank you our audience for today. Thank you, and stay tuned for tomorrow.